Okay, the recording has started now.
Okay, do you want me to start or shall I wait a minute?
Let's wait just a minute or two. People are starting to come on. I see one of our stellar board chairs, Sue Markison, is on. Charles Powell, our organizer for this event, is on.
Well, it looks like we've got 13 participants.
Yeah. Good to see some familiar names there. Hope you all are well. So glad you could join us tonight. While we are waiting, we'll give it a minute more then, George.
Okay, fine, whatever you want for it.
It's up to you, but I would like to just encourage people to tune in. Next Thursday, the Democratic Party of Bernalillo County is hosting our third Thursday meeting. We have as our guests the land commissioner for the state, public land commissioner, and Stephanie Garcia Richard. We also will be having our state treasurer, Tim Eichenberg, as well as our Senator Mimi Stewart from Senate District 17. And we're going to be talking about silver linings. Can we make some silver linings out of our current crisis? And maybe what would it take for us to switch to more renewable energy and resources here, and to have that fuel our economy in New Mexico? Tom Solomon will be moderating that discussion. And you can find information about that on our website, bernalillodems.org, or in our newsletter. If you get the Blue Review and the Blue, we'll have that. Okay, and so if you'd like to get started, George, you ready?
I'm ready, Flora. Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome. I'm George Richmond. I'm moderating this program today. There are two candidates, District 20, Elena Estrella on the right panel below me. On the left, Meredith Dixon. Let me give some thanks and acknowledgement. This program is coming to us through the grace of the Democratic Party of Bernalillo County, and the chair, Flora Lucero, will be timekeeper. Now for the candidates, please watch Flora Lucero. She will hold up signs and giving you fair warning. Some questions will be 3 minutes, some 2 minutes. Your opening statement will be 5 minutes. I will, for the people on the call, like to thank you. And I would also like to acknowledge Charles Powell from Greenbrier, who organized this. And I'll have to also state, Charles and I are both members, League of Women Voters, Central New Mexico. And that should be enough, because I have attended a forum at Greenbrier. They do a very good job, and I'm happy that you're here. So what we're going to start, each candidate will have an opening statement. And by alphabetical order, we've picked Meredith Dixon to take 5 minutes and start off. Meredith, your opening statement.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Flora, and everyone who is on the Zoom meeting with us this evening. So first, thank you for inviting me to participate. I appreciate, I know Charles Powell organized everything and got us all together tonight, so thank you. First off, COVID-19 has really changed a lot in our daily lives and for campaigning. And I appreciate each of you taking the time this evening to meet Elena and me and talk about the issues facing our district and New Mexico. Not only has COVID-19 changed our routines, but it has cost lives and devastated the state's budget. 6 months ago, our legislators crafted a budget with a projected surplus, largely as a result of the oil boom. Today, our legislature is looking at between a $1 and $2 billion deficit. That means that our legislature is going to face tough funding decisions, and I'm prepared to work together with constituents, legislators, and our governor to find a path forward. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and why I believe I'm the best choice for State Representative House District 20. I'm a mother, a small business owner, and a proud Albuquerque resident. My husband, Kevin, is an engineer at Sandia National Labs, and we're raising our 2 daughters, Madeline, who's 11, and Elizabeth, who's 9, in the heart of District 20. I want a better future for my daughters and for every New Mexico family, and that means changing the way we do business. I'm running for State House because I know that we'll have to come together to get things done. I know we can do more to ensure that every New Mexican has access to quality health care and to build a robust, fair economy. I believe that every child deserves an extraordinary education and to grow up in a safe neighborhood. Over the past 2 decades, I've been fortunate enough to work with effective leaders and community organizations. As a field representative for Senator Tom Udall, I connected families and businesses to the resources they needed. I was proud to help ensure that their government was working for them. As a senior aide in the New Mexico legislature, I supported efforts to lower the cost of prescription drugs and to help our first responders. I set up a statewide jobs tour to connect government leaders with business owners across New Mexico. I know that listening is the most important step in making policy, and you need to bring people together to hear them and craft solutions. That's why I've been endorsed by a number of elected officials and progressive organizations, including Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, Senator Martin Heinrich, and our current state representative, Abbas Akil. I've also been endorsed by groups including Conservation Voters New Mexico, Albuquerque Teachers Federation, Planned Parenthood, and the Animal Protection Voters. I want to bring people together because I'm committed to the future of this state, and I know you all are too. It will take all of us pulling in the same direction to get New Mexico moving towards a brighter future. As state representative, I'll be ready to hit the ground running on day 1. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I look forward to talking about the issues. Thanks.
Elena?
Thank you. And thank you for the organizers in putting this forum together. Thank you to each and every one of you that are on this call and taking the time to listen to what we have to say. Unfortunately, we can't meet with you in person, which both of us would love to do. Many of you know me in my community leadership roles. And I'd like to take a brief moment to tell you my background. I was a professional violist and pianist starting from the age of 10. And I played concerts in New York, all through Europe. And through all of that, I learned some valuable skills, including many leadership skills and cooperation skills that I take forward to me into this very day. And after that wonderful career, I decided to follow my other passion in medical science. And in my work as a medical scientist, I worked with infectious disease with a respiratory virus. But my most rewarding role was working as an advocate for the underserved, finding solutions, bringing corporations with large resources, bringing them to the table to be part of the solution and ultimately to provide free medication for those who could not afford the medication. I came to this part of Albuquerque, District 20, because of a tragedy. My husband and I had a devastating fire. We lost our home, we lost everything, and within about a week, our entire retirement savings was gone. And we literally lost everything in a very, very short period of time. And I know that feeling when you wake up in the morning and you don't even know if you're going to be able to provide a roof over your family's head, that feeling of panic. I have been there and I know it. And through all of this, when I came to this area of Albuquerque, I realized that this is a uniquely diverse and inclusive area of New Mexico. And many community members are not properly represented in this area. And I receive phone calls every single day from the moment I wake up as a community leader. And many people just ask me questions. Hey, do you know when I'm going to get my stimulus check? Do you know what to do about my neighbor's weeds? And through that all, every day I get thanks. They tell me we work 2 jobs. We are raising our children. We're taking care of our parents. We don't have time. We don't have time to go to city council. We don't have time to go to the legislature. Thank you for representing us. And for me, there is no learning curve. I have been in the thick of it. I have helped to build a business alliance for the East Central businesses. I have demanded transparency and accountability with our elected leaders and projects. And I have been commended and successfully worked together with communities and law enforcement to improve public safety in our area. And I will continue to be a voice for our district. And I hear you, and I am you, and I am that voice. And I would like for you to consider me to continue my leadership in the state legislature. Thank you.
Now we're going to move to questions and answers, and we're going to alternate who answers first. For the first question, Meredith will answer, and then Ilenia, it will alternate. But here's the first question. New Mexico depends heavily on revenues from oil, gas, and tourism. But right now, both areas are suffering huge declines. The old practice of balancing the budget was to cut funding for K through 12 schools and universities. Well, should that be the practice now? Or is it time to open the piggy bank, the permanent funds that were established to be used when oil gas revenues run out? But for this first question, we'll give you an extra minute, so you have 180 seconds to answer, Meredith. Thank you.
Great, just enough time to answer a very complicated question. So first and foremost, I believe that when we talk about the state's budget, that it's important that everyone pay their fair share. And so when, there'll be a special session in mid-June where the legislature will have to come together and look at some different choices. And I think that it's important that to begin with, everything is on the table, and that the legislators look at the data that's provided and analyze some of the options. There are, in my opinion, ways that we can increase revenue and offset some of the losses that we've had from oil and gas and tourism. We can look at, we always talk about GRT reform and the need to broaden the base. We can also look at some of the capital gains deductions. that were implemented a number of years ago. So there are some revenue options that should be on the table. And then we can also look at ways in which the state can be more efficient. But I certainly do not believe that our state is in a position to cut funding for schools and essential services, especially at this time.
Thank you. Can we hear your comments, please, Elenia?
Thank you. I believe that the question was about cutting education, and I think that we have to avoid cutting education at all costs. We have, first of all, a big part of this recovery phase that we're going into. We must encourage industry into New Mexico, and we cannot encourage industry into New Mexico if they don't believe that they can come in here and our educational system will be able to provide adequate education for their employees. So the question also was, should we, you called it the piggy bank, you know, should we tap into the piggy bank? I call it the rainy day fund. If this isn't a rainy day, then I don't know what is. Now, there are a lot of solutions that we need to look at. And number one, we need to make sure that we are getting every penny and every ounce of federal dollars into the state, and everybody can go right now and help make that happen, because there are resources available to start continue to bring federal dollars into the state. We need to tap into our rainy day fund. We cannot cut education. Yes, we need to be creative. We need to encourage industry so that we're not overly reliant on oil and gas, but we've been saying that for years, and now we're up against it, and we have to do it. So going back to education, we cannot cut education. We have to look where we can spend our money wisely, tap into the rainy day fund, but education is the silver bullet for all New Mexicans, and we cannot start there with cuts.
Great answer, thank you. This next question will start with you, Elenia. Prior to becoming a candidate, tell us what District 20 issues concerned you the most.
Well, I have been working in the district for years, and that I would probably have a very long answer, but I'll stick to just a few. Number one, I was involved in putting together the East Central Business Alliance. The businesses wanted to know, what do we do about our incredible shoplifting losses? What do we do about public safety? How do we get this blight on East Central dealt with? And there is infrastructure available to encourage business development, and the state owns 6 or 7 properties just on East Central. There is an infrastructure, but it takes leadership to come in and make that happen. Right now, the lots are just sitting empty. So I've been working on that. I have also, as I said earlier, I have been working on public safety in the area. You know, New Mexico, Albuquerque is a hot spot for car thefts and home invasions, home break-ins. And I have been commended. I have worked with law enforcement to improve public safety in this area. And I have also worked with people in the community who feel that they don't have a voice, to represent them at every level, at the state legislature, at city council. The community members are very, very tired of feeling that they need to have a voice, but leadership is essentially doing whatever they want to do without listening to the community. And I will continue to do that at every level, including at the state legislature.
Thank you. Meredith?
Thank you. So in terms of what issues concerned me the most as a resident of District 20. I think that there are three issues that I would highlight. The first being education, second, economic diversification, and third, crime. Particularly as a mother of two elementary school aged girls, the state of New Mexico's education system and how it can be improved has been something that has concerned me, since before my first daughter was born. And also, Elena mentioned this as well, but the concern with education, not just as a parent, but also if you own a business or if you are recruiting employees from the national labs and you want to bring people into New Mexico, the state of education and making sure that all of our kids are receiving a quality education is very important. And so that has been a concern of mine for a number of years. And I think that in the legislature, one of the ways that I've been fortunate to make progress on that is by helping to elect a strong Democratic caucus to work in conjunction with Governor Lujan Grisham to increase the more than doubled education funding in response to the Martinez-Yazzie decision, and put more money directly into the classrooms and targeted at risk students. And so I think that is one of the biggest issues of concern. And I'll sort of leave it there for that one and hope that we talk about the other two issues later on. Thanks.
Very good, Meredith. Thank you. The next question is for you, Meredith. It's a longer answer. You have 180 seconds to answer this. Share with us your personal involvement with not-for-profits, government entities, churches, civic leaders, local businesses, educators, schools, neighbors, and the very visible transient community in District 20.
Could you repeat the last bit? So schools,
neighbors, and the very visible transient community in District 20.
okay. Okay, so 180 seconds, here I go. One of the things that I am most proud of in my personal life has been my role as a member of the board of Albuquerque Involved. And I think that this sort of will lend itself to answering how I've interacted with various groups in the community. Albuquerque Involved is a nonprofit organization that works to introduce members and other folks in the public about the work that nonprofit organizations are doing. And so through that, I've been able to meet hundreds of folks involved in the nonprofit community in Albuquerque. And so people working with education organizations, healthcare for the homeless, different community groups that are trying to make an impact on a number of these issues. And so I think that that has really informed my understanding of how we should address problems by bringing various stakeholders together. So I would say that in terms of my personal involvement, Albuquerque Involved is something that I'm very proud of. I also serve on the board of directors of an environmental organization, which is Climate Advocates Voces Unidos. And I am on the board of Paws and Stripes, which is an organization that works with veterans and training service dogs. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, your turn, Elaine.
Okay, I don't think that I memorized everything that was on that question, but I'll take a stab at it here.
I can read it again if you want to hear it.
Sure, yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Share with us your personal involvement with nonprofit organizations, government entities, churches, civic leaders, local businesses, educators, schools, neighbors, and the very visible transient group in District 20?
Okay, so thank you. I will start with the last one because that is questions that I get daily and issues that I have been involved with. So yes, we have, there are different levels of people who we see on the streets. And since I don't have a lot of time, I won't define all of those. But specifically in the years that I have been a community leader, I have worked with the Tiny Home Village to help find an appropriate location, and that was very successful, and it's moving forward as far as finding a location. And also, there is an organization that started downtown called GABA, the Greater Albuquerque Business Alliance. And they started downtown as a group of businesses who wanted to address the homeless issue downtown. And it grew organically to where up here on East Central, we realized, wow, we're facing some of the same issues that they're facing downtown, and maybe we can work together. And so what grew in the last couple of years, but there have been some amazing volunteers and architects that have come together, and they said, you know, we can put together a campus model where we can provide many services at one location. And it has grown over the years to where they have funding, they have up-to-date architectural renderings. And I think that this grew out of the frustration that many of us continue to feel that our government is too slow, spending too much money, and not getting things done. So there is a few examples of how I've been involved in the homeless issue, the transient issue. As far as government entities, civic leaders, I have worked with Mayor Keller to be a liaison between the community and the new community center that's being built, or the city regarding the new community center. There are many voices that wanted to be heard. And also government entities, boy, I can't even begin to enumerate. Everything's intertwined. The city, the county. I helped a neighborhood receive a $2,500 grant to do outreach to low income. And my time is up. That was a very difficult question to answer in 3 minutes. So thank you very much.
Okay, I've checked the question and answer. I found an interesting question, which I'm going to insert here. The current legislator in Santa Fe is leaving office, and Abbas is noted as an expert in renewable energy. So the question is, how will you continue his work in renewable energy, which is ever so important? And we'll start with you, Elena, to answer this question. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, I have been following Abbas's work in renewable energy. I think that this is an opportunity right now. You know, necessity is the mother of an invention, and boy, do we have a lot of necessities right now. I mean, our state has been hit with a double whammy. And because of the, if one wants to characterize it as a total collapse of our oil and gas industry, we are being forced to face this right now. What do we do? So, you know, I would like to continue involving communities in community solar. I would like to continue to look at providing incentives for other alternate energies, also with with vehicles. And what do? We can combine that with reducing our carbon emissions here in the state. And we can dovetail that going back to education. So these are opportunities to provide education, jobs, and industry, encouragement of industry to come into New Mexico, because that is how we're going to recover.
Thank you. Good answer. Meredith?
Thank you. Do we have 180 seconds for this one too?
No, this is only a 2-minute question.
Okay, all right. So Representative Akil brought a huge wealth of knowledge to his role in the legislature. And I don't think that that can be replaced. I think, you know, his knowledge was so in depth and well respected. One of the things that I was fortunate enough to be a part of is in 2019, the negotiations for the Energy Transition Act. Speaker Brian Egolf was heavily involved. And so as part of my role in working in the legislature, I got to see the involvement of all of the different stakeholders in crafting that massive piece of legislation. There have also been other legislative ideas that either Representative Akil has brought to the table or Representative Cadena from Las Cruces in terms of expanding access to electric vehicles, incentivizing, as Elena said. But there are other things that we can do as well. One of the things that Representative Akil has worked on is regional grid planning. We need to make sure that our renewable energy has a place to go so that we can sell it. We can also retrofit some of our buildings to be more energy efficient and increase building energy efficiency targets. That's something that can be incorporated with our renewable energy. I'd like to extend access to distributed solar so that condominiums and other groups can lower their utility costs by investing in solar. And then I guess I'll leave it there, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. I got an email this morning from a resident of District 20, and she expressed a lot of concerns. And the issues deal with problems in crime, dysfunctional families, substance abuse, and kids at risk. What steps will you take to mitigate these issues? And Meredith, you kick this one off, please.
Okay. So I think there are two issues that I'd like to hit on with regard to that question: crime, and then also dysfunctional families, and what we frequently call ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences that have such a detrimental effect on growth and development. So first, with crime and public safety, I think that there are a lot of opportunities for the community and our law enforcement to work together through partnerships. We can update crime fighting technology and work with academia, the technology industries, and other local experts to be more efficient. We can target criminals who are responsible for the vast majority of crimes and enhance penalties for crimes that lead to others, like the chop shop legislation that Representative Akil had introduced. And then we can also make sure that policing is responsive and encourages community and neighborhood participation through things like the community policing councils and community-based intervention programs. Additionally, in terms of the dysfunctional families and childhood experiences, those are things we can work. There's a great study that came out from northern New Mexico, Anna Age 8, that talks about these adverse childhood experiences. And I think we can really look at some of the data that they have discovered and incorporate that into more more funding and stronger programs throughout the state. So investing in early childhood education, when we talk about that, that means not only pre-K, but it's also home visits to make sure that families are functioning properly. Thanks.
Thank you. Your turn, Elaine.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so this question, these issues are happening to most of us right outside our front door. And this is absolutely what I've been involved with for the last 3 or 4 years. And I have worked with APD and the commanders and the lieutenants and the community policing council, et cetera, et cetera. And here's what it's everything's interconnected. But let's start with education. The majority of this dysfunction is coming from families where the children do not have the encouragement. The families don't have the resources at home, and they're lagging in their education, and therefore then these tweens and teens turn to gangs, and those teens and tweens are the ones committing most of the crimes in our district. Also, there are issues of domestic violence, and there are issues of food insecurity, and there are many people with inadequate medical care. So all of these things are intertwined. There is no magic silver bullet, but what I've been working towards is to do proper outreach with these areas, get these people involved, let them know that we care, because we can't do anything to help them if we're not reaching out, if we're not identifying, and if we're not nurturing the children to become participants in society, to fulfill their potential, to become doctors, to become scientists at our national labs. This is what we need.
Thank you, Elena. Next question here. There's an interest in increasing voter participations by changing voting to voting by mail, as has been done in Oregon for many years. Also, ranked choice voting, which has been used successfully in elections in Santa Fe and Las Cruces. What are your views? And this is a longer answer. You have 180 seconds to answer. Let's kick it off with you, please, Elena.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so absolutely, as far as vote by mail, I was very disappointed that our Supreme Court did not allow it. And I think that there are those like our Secretary of State, others that were very disappointed. As I keep saying, there are those in our district right here that feel that they're not properly represented. I'm sure there are those all through the state of New Mexico that feel that way. And by every single registered voter receiving a ballot, that gives everybody the opportunity to have a voice and to be counted. I think that there are a lot of people that feel that we need to make sure that it's done correctly. And in times of emergency, as what we're having now, we are seeing that this absolutely, it is what everybody wants. I mean, again, I get phone calls every day from the time I wake up, and this is a big topic to the people in our community. They would like to not have it be so complex where they have to request an absentee ballot, then wait for the absentee ballot and then send it back. They would like if they're registered to vote, why can't they just send back their ballot and vote and be counted? That way, underserved communities and everybody gets to be counted.
Thank you. Meredith.
Thank you. First off, I would agree with Elena that the Supreme Court's decision perhaps wasn't in the best interest of encouraging people to vote from home and staying safe and healthy. But it's New Mexico, I think, has made a lot of progress in terms of making voting more accessible for its citizens through not only vote by mail, but the expansion of the early voting centers and same-day voter registration that we passed. So I think that we can continue to work on those issues. And right now, given the COVID-19 crisis, we need to encourage people to return their request forms if they haven't already requested a ballot, and then return their ballot when they receive it. Regarding ranked choice voting, I would be interested in learning more about the results in California. For Santa Fe and some of the municipal elections, those are nonpartisan races. So I don't know how that would sort of translate to other district races. So I'd be curious to learn more about that, but I don't have a strong opinion at this moment.
Thank you. And I will make sure, Meredith, that you get information on ranked choice voting shortly, tomorrow.
Thank you.
The next question, give us an example where you have collaborated with organizational decision makers or government leaders to create change. Meredith, you're first on this one.
All right, that is a weighty question. I think, so an example of where I have collaborated with other folks to create change. That's the,
Yes.
okay, okay. It's a really good question. And I don't have anything at the top of my mind, but I did briefly mention the work in the legislature during the 2019 legislative session regarding the Energy Transition Act. And I think that's actually a really good example of bringing people together from various sides of an issue. So not only renewable energy advocates, but also oil and gas industry people, folks in the San Juan County region who would be losing jobs, PNM and some of the other utility companies that have a stake in the future of the San Juan generating station. So I feel very proud to have been a part of that. And it was an enormous undertaking that really tried to take into account the different needs of everyone who was involved. And it wasn't a simple solution, and it was very complicated, but it took a lot of time and a lot of work to get the votes passed in the legislature. And so I think that I'm very proud of being a part of that effort. Thanks.
Thank you, Meredith. Elena.
I almost forgot to unmute myself. Okay, so this is, you know, exactly in my wheelhouse. This is what I have been doing out there every single day. So I will start with working with our representative, Abbas Akil, and I'll give you a specific example. So the property that's on either side of the freeway is owned by the state. And in our district, there have been many homeless camps there. And there are people there that need help. They need medical attention. There are horrible unsanitary conditions, and they're living in fear of being victims of crime. And the community was begging Albuquerque Police Department to do something to help these people. And Albuquerque Police Department said, we have no jurisdiction on this property. It's owned by the state. So we worked with Abasaquil and asked him, please help us. And in the end, what happened was that the state gave APD permission to go in there and help the people that needed help. So there's one example. I can also talk about Tiny Home Village. So the county, Bernalillo County, was wanting to had multiple sites for their tiny home village. And the people in this area in District 20, the residents, felt that the locations that the county had chosen in this area were not appropriate areas. So what ended up happening was that we reached out to other areas. We worked with the county commission and we found a suitable location where the community could support the tiny home village. I could give you other examples, but my time is up.
Thank you. Very good. So it's coming to 6:46 on my computer time clock, and we're going to go to closing statements. And so I'm going to grow this from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. And Meredith, you have 3 minutes to start your closing statement.
Sorry, do I go first or does Elena?
No, you're going to go first, so she will go last. She'll get the first crack at the last hit.
Okay, all right.
Oh, she's last up.
Great. Well, first off, thank you everyone for inviting us and hosting this discussion this evening. I think that what I'd actually like to do is just hit on a couple of the issues that I don't think we really covered or that I was able to talk about as much as I would have liked. And that includes economic diversification, which is something I feel very strongly about. We talked a little bit about oil and gas, particularly in regard to the budget and renewable energy. But I think that long-term, our state really needs to diversify the economy and figure out what mechanisms we can use to grow industries in which our state has a competitive, sustainable advantage. So things like intellectual capital, wide open space. We have some really fantastic attributes in New Mexico that other places don't have, and so how can we capitalize on that? In terms of gun violence prevention, that's another area that I would like to see us continue to make progress on. And I think that we can work with additional community-based violence intervention programs. I'd also like to see some child access prevention legislation in New Mexico. So those are two other things. And then transparency. New Mexico has a capital outlay system that I don't believe serves New Mexico to its fullest. And so I would be interested in working on updating the capital outlay system so that it is more merit-based and fully transparent, so representatives and senators publicize the projects that they fund. So those are a couple other things. But I do want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I know that the COVID-19 crisis has changed how we're campaigning and interacting, and so I appreciate the opportunity to meet with folks virtually. I have more information on my website, which is meredithfornewmexico.com. So there's additional information there on key issues, as well as my contact information. Anyone is welcome to give me a call or send me an email. My cell phone's 505-401-8339. If you have follow-up questions that we didn't get to today. And so with that, Once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, George, for moderating, Flora for keeping the time, and Charles Powell for instigating this event. Thank you.
Meredith, thank you. Elaine, you've got the last crack at it.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, I want to thank Flora, George, Charles for making this happen. Thank you, Meredith, so much for this opportunity where we've had very little opportunity for all of us to get together and talk about the issues. For me, when you vote for me, you know that there is no learning curve with me. I have been in the thick of it. I've been out there. I have been working hard, and I will continue to do that. And even if we don't see eye to eye on something, and I know because I'm out there with the community members and people have different ideas, but I will be your representative for everyone. This is a purple district. I will be the representative for each and every person in this district. I will continue to be a resource. I don't mind that my phone rings from the moment I wake up in the morning, and I don't care what question you have for me. And even if it has to do with the federal government or with weeds, it doesn't matter, call me. I will continue to be that resource. We have many challenges facing us with this post-COVID recovery. And one of them is a healthcare crisis. And I have worked I know how the healthcare delivery system works. I know how to help ensure public health and public safety. That is right in my wheelhouse. And I've even coincidentally worked with a highly infectious respiratory virus. So I know what we're talking about and what we're facing through all of this. And we have so much opportunity here in New Mexico. We have world-class institutions. We should, in this post-COVID recovery, we should be encouraging industry by highlighting our amazing, wonderful, world-class institutions. Everything, we all know what we have to offer here in New Mexico, and industry should be part of that solution. And together also we can make that world-class education available to each and every New Mexican so that the national laboratories can draw from the students in the community. And we should not have a provider shortage. We have one of the best medical schools in the nation. So all of this is possible, all of this. And I will, call me anytime. I will continue to hear you. I am you. So please vote for me, Elena Estrella. And you can go to my Facebook at Estrella for New Mexico, or my website, estrellaNM.com.
I'd like to thank the people who tuned in and saw this program. I want to thank Flora Lucero for being timekeeper and organizing it, and her very difficult work now as being chair, Democratic Party, Bernalillo County. And we know what our job is in November, to elect a Democrat. And I'd like to thank Meredith and Elena for their work. And thank you all very much. Let's go out and work hard and get Democrats elected. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, George.
Okay, I'm going to drop off.